I now give the floor to the distinguished representative of Cameroon to introduce a statement by the Minister.
Mr.
President, Cameroon is a member of the United Nations. Hence, it is with tremendous pleasure and a great honor for me to introduce the statement, the pre-recorded statement of His Excellency Paul Biya, President of the Republic and Head of State of Cameroon. The statement to be delivered by His Excellency Mbella, Minister for Foreign Relations. Mr. President, the President of the Republic of Cameroon, His Excellency Paul Biya, wishes to convey to you through myself, to you, the Secretary General, as well as all, the warmest greetings. It is also a great honor to speak before the General Assembly on the theme and to deliver the following statement. I quote, Mr. President, it is with tremendous pleasure that I take the floor today in addressing the General Assembly during the general debate for this year on the theme, The Future We Want, the United Nations We Need, reaffirming our collective commitment to multilateralism. I wish to begin by congratulating you, as well as other members of the Bureau, upon your well-deserved election to the presidency of the 75th session of the General Assembly. I wish to commend your predecessor, Ambassador Mohamed Tijani Banda from Nigeria. Ambassador Banda, who deftly steered the proceedings of the 74th session of the General Assembly. I also wish to take this opportunity to pay tribute to our Secretary General, Mr. Antonio Guterres, our Secretary General, who has been striving assiduously for the achievement of a world of peace and justice amid an environment that has been shaken by upheaval. For the first time in its history, the high-level week of the General Assembly occurs without the physical presence of leaders of the world, and the general debate is taking place through video conference services. This is a technical prowess that challenges us to pool our efforts and put forward a coordinated response in order to end this health crisis. Ladies and gentlemen, heads of state and government, ladies and gentlemen, the United Nations is celebrating its 75th anniversary, a respectable age, founded in 1945, the United Nations has contributed to the pooling of efforts of all member states with the aim of saving succeeding generations from the scourge of war, with the aim of fostering social progress, and with the aim of establishing the best possible living conditions for all peoples. In the past 75 years, the march of time has shown that the success of the mission conferred upon the United Nations hinges on the ability of the United Nations to bring parties together in order to tackle the myriad challenges that the world faces at present. Excellencies, ladies and gentlemen, whether we like it or not, multilateralism is vital. Nationalism is at times seductive. However, it is incumbent upon us to acknowledge the fact that our present-day problems are largely transnational in nature. There are many, but I would mention inter alia, climate, global warming, migration, terrorism, myriad forms of trafficking, among others. The only way to tackle these issues is through international cooperation. For more than 7 decades, multilateralism has saved the world and shielded the world from the tragedy of another world war. Multilateralism has contributed to economic development, has contributed to technological progress in many parts of the world. Certainly, the United Nations has played an important role in this process. However, it is evident that numerous conflict hotspots and tensions persist. At the same time, there are new threats emerging, as I have already mentioned. Rising inequality is among them. Cameroon ardently hopes that in this globalized world there will be a particular focus on the manipulation of public opinion and specifically on the spread of fake news by social networks. These increasingly constitute genuine threats to peace. Beyond statements of goodwill, my country is of the view that the achievement of the Sustainable Development Goals also hinges on the way each member of the international community shoulders their responsibilities. Notwithstanding our limited means, Cameroon has endeavored to make progress towards poverty eradication, towards the promotion of rule of law, and towards improvements in the quality of education. However, it behooves us to acknowledge the fact that the road ahead of us is still long. The road ahead is still long for low-income countries. Excellencies, ladies and gentlemen, since its creation, the United Nations has engaged in conflict management and the conservation of peace. The multiplication of peacekeeping operations perfectly encapsulates this reality. More than 70 peacekeeping missions have been deployed by the United Nations to support peace processes, and these include inter alia disarmament, demobilization, reintegration, and repatriation operations. These include monitoring of ceasefires, and these include the maintenance of public order. There has been growing collaboration between the United Nations and other multilateral fora in these areas. This growing collaboration helps to further progress in multilateralism. This is specifically the case with the African Union, with which joint missions have been deployed. This example serves as inspiration for largely African missions. As a troop contributor to United Nations peacekeeping operations, Cameroon has proffered an ongoing commitment to peacekeeping and international security. My country has indeed continuously contributed to this multilateral endeavor. For decades, Cameroon has been providing troops to peacekeeping operations such as MINUSTA, such as MONUC, such as MINUSCA, such as MONUSCO, and I believe that this is something to take great pride in, quite deservedly. Ladies and gentlemen, the maintenance of peace and security also requires the United Nations rise to the occasion and decisively tackle the issue of climate change, which has an impact on security. And yet, some parties continue to deny this reality, despite the proliferation of natural disasters, which serve as a constant reminder of this reality. It is clear that climate change poses a formidable threat to human life. And for this reason, urgent measures need to be adopted to ensure the future of humanity and to ensure that all people enjoy the right to live in a healthy environment. Mr. President, Excellencies, ladies and gentlemen, peace is not merely the absence of war. Peace also is access to food, access to basic services. Hence, our hope is that there will be a greater focus on the question of development. Presently, as we speak, a number of developing countries, particularly in Africa, but elsewhere as well, are continuing to fight against poverty. It is important for the most developed countries' markets to be more open to those least developed countries. This opening can meaningfully supplement official development assistance and technical assistance that these countries receive from abroad. As regards Cameroon, our goal is to build a society where the basic needs of all are met. This means that there's a need to guarantee food security, to eliminate poverty, to combat discrimination, and to expand access to health care. In this spirit, my country has adopted a national poverty reduction strategy. These are efforts that have been undertaken by my country, Cameroon, and yet these efforts have been stymied by the atrocities perpetrated by the Boko Haram sect. In the northern part of our country, these difficulties are compounded by a socio-political crisis in our northwest and southwest regions. In those regions, armed gangs terrorize the populations. The initiatives of the government are geared towards protecting the people there, and the initiatives are geared towards restoring normal living conditions in the areas concerned. And these initiatives have begun to bear fruit. One can now consider that a gradual restoration of calm is within reach. My country's government is determined to persevere in our efforts, rooting ourselves in the principles of rule of law, of human rights, as well as efforts geared towards eradicating all forms of discrimination, exploitation, and injustice. We have embraced consultation and concertation, and we have successfully organized a wide-ranging national dialogue exercise to inter alia address root causes of crisis in the northwest and southwest regions, with the aim of delivering on suitable solutions. These debates and discussions have led to the adoption of a law on decentralization, a law which inter alia grants special status to the northwest and southwest regions and provides for implementation of a recovery and development plan for these regions. Cameroon has spared no effort in seeking to tackle threats to our stability and development. Yet, we must acknowledge that it is difficult for a country to single-handedly combat terrorism. For this reason, it behooves me to call upon the United Nations to close ranks and combat terrorism wherever it manifests itself. Mr. President, Excellencies, ladies and gentlemen, after 75 years of progress towards multilateralism, racism persists. The obstacles to free movement of people are rising once again. Fear of the other, specifically of the migrant, continues to loom large. These are all issues that require authentic multilateralism to be addressed. It goes without saying that revitalization of the General Assembly needs to be accompanied by reform of the Security Council, which has been underway for a number of years already. On this question, Africa expects of all partners that they put forward robust solidarity to be reflected in the establishment of 2 permanent seats with the relevant rights and 2 non-permanent seats to redress a historic injustice. And it appears that all parties today agree on this. The successful conclusion of negotiations on these 2 reforms would be the best birthday gift that we member states can offer to both the United Nations and all of humanity to ensure that the United Nations remains best positioned to promote peace, security, and social progress. I thank you for your kind attention. End of quote.
On behalf of the General Assembly, I wish to thank the Minister of External Relations of Cameroon for the statement just made. I now give the floor to the distinguished representative of New Zealand,